and there have been riots. So this is very interesting. I don't know, the democracy, the way the democracy is being developed in this area, and also the way the actually media has been being controlled is something I don't know you can talk about.
Basically, how do you see the crisis of liberal institutions and rise of democracy in these years? Suddenly, democracy is in a crisis, which means that the liberal institutions are also in crisis. So where do we are heading in terms of so much of the rights that we have enjoyed in the past? So majority in politics. He linked with the democracy and development issue. What do you see from the place where you come from?
Actually, as you rightly said, it's not India one can represent. I think it's very there than that. I can't even represent South India or even a city. And I think that is a strength that you cannot actually represent, a whole nation or a whole country. But on the other hand, I think coming from, I've lived in Delhi for, 22 years. I lived in Kathmandu for a while. And now I'm living in the south, although the question of where are you from, which everyone is asked always, where are you from? And I think cosmopolitan Indians are increasingly being forced to say where they're from, which is like a particular community, a caste, a particular identity. And I think that is what is getting very, very strong. And there are policies which are now, I mean, the Aadhaar identity started this kind of almost marking of who is legitimate and who is not. Now the NRC, it's not only in Assam, Bangalore, just outside Bangalore is the second largest detention center. They're calling it a detention center for non-citizens or those who cannot prove they're citizens. So, in fact, the largest number of Bangladeshi detainees are outside of Bangalore. No, Bangalore. That's the interesting part because the South was considered always not quite part of this nation state. Language-wise, there was always a tussle against Hindi imposition. Just 2-3 months ago, there was blackening of the Hindi in the metro stations and inside the trains also in Bangalore. So the three-language formula has been challenged time and again, whether it's from Tamil Nadu or from Karnataka. There's a strong, strong, I'd say, more chauvinist pro-Kannada movement, which is anti-Hindi. So in that sense, there has been this sort of tug of war always in terms of what the nation stands for. And these larger things, which again everybody knows about, the annexation of Kashmir, practically, that's what has happened. The appeasement of the Hindu majority with this recent judgment, where even liberal, secular people, I mean, the courts were in a way the last refuge in India, and now we're really wondering where the courts are going actually. And the media, of course, for the past, I think, 10 or 12 years, there are lots of monikers, Godi media and so on and so forth, because the mainstream media is no longer a force you can rely on to analyze or critique or stand up to anything that's happening in a larger court. So these are the larger developments I'm sure everyone knows about, but I just want to bring up smaller but very dangerous changes which are happening in the South particularly, in terms of, for example, changes in textbooks. And these are things which are not being seen or talked about because they are in local languages. So the government schools in Karnataka are changing history textbooks very quietly but on a large scale. The entire, history is being rewritten. Children are being taught a very monolithic, inaccurate picture of, what actually, I mean, simple things like which have now been established. I mean, who were the Aryans? Did the Aryans even come from anywhere else? What is the history of, the Vedic period? So in textbooks, there are these very dangerous linear equations being drawn, which are not being questioned because number one, there's so much else going on. You're just kind of paddling, trying to stay afloat. And I think this is exactly the problem, that the smaller but more dangerous and insidious things going on are are not, I mean, we actually activists just don't have time to even pay attention to so much of what's happening.
Thank you, Lakshmi. Now I go to Tikaji.
Thank you. It's indeed a privilege to be here among such brilliant members of the panel. I would like to go a little back actually in relating to our own experience of Nepali, the idea of liberty or independence, because the kind of problems that South Asian democracy has in general lived through, Nepal also has lived through it. We've seen our own editorial rooms being manned by the persons in uniforms. We've seen our telephones intercepted. We've seen our internet being disconnected. We've lived through it. But what was the spirit that actually forced us to stand up against it? What was it? I think that was the very essence of the idea of freedom, or the idea to stand up to it. And this goes very much with the tagline of the film festival, that where the mind is free, where the mind is without fear, there the mind is free. And I believe when I was actually reflecting a little bit back on the very theme of this, what I found out was the line that very well resonated with it was from our own great poet Lakshmi Prasad Devkota, who said, "Antahkaranko swatantratayo tarasa aha anamo." The freedom that we feel deep down in your heart, in our heart, is actually priceless. And I think that was the true spirit of liberty, that was the true spirit of freedom, which provoked us to stand up against what was beholden right above our head. And this, I think, also is a kind of a celebration of the true spirit of the idea of South Asian liberty, or our own very essence, the way Hariji rightly put it at the start, that not the idea of liberty in the very much westernized concept, but our own ideal of emancipation, our own ideas of freedom, to be able to stand up to the power that tries to put us into chains. And today, when we look at it, we have certain democratic institutions. We have representative democracy. We have constitutionally guaranteed freedom. But is that alone sufficient? We may have representative democracy. In the context of, let's say, all South Asia, we can say that we have representative democracy, but this does not alone guarantee the rights of the people in general. The very institutions that we elected can come back to haunt us. So I think this is the place where we have to stand to safeguard our freedoms from the people that we elect ourselves. And today, when we talk about democracy, of course, what are the words, catchwords that we get to hear more often? Together with democracy, the word that we get to hear more often is religion. And, obviously money. And one American humorist, essayist, H.L. Mencken, famously said, democracy, too, is a religion. And this is where the jackals are worshipped by jackasses. And those who don't want to be jackasses actually gather in the rooms like this, and then gather together, celebrate their spirit, and refuse to be jackasses. And they always wake up, they always try to awaken the society in general, and try to put up their fight together. I think this is the true spirit of liberty in the context of South Asia. At least in Nepal, I can say that, because we have fought time and again. We have put democratic constitutions in place. When our rights were hijacked, when our rights were taken away, we have gathered our courage to fight back. And this is the spirit of liberty, I think, that we need to celebrate.
Thank you. We have heard each of my fellow panelists here. I want to move into different directions, not different directions, based on some of the submissions here. very interesting thing that Nalivji has brought, democracy and development. When I hear the current Indian discourse on Vikas, हमें लोकतंत्र नहीं विकास चाहिए, ऐसा we hear that kind of thing. Modi harps on development. And this is the precisely kind of argument we heard during the 60s. When was a new authoritarian regime, the guided democracy in Pakistan and Egypt, Nasir, the Brazilian model of bureaucratic authoritarianism, Malaysia, many parts. So is history circular in that sense? So I'm wondering, that's the point. Is history circular? Because I speak from my Nepali experience that we've been denied democracy, whatever, representative, basic minimum democracy in the name of development. Because we need to catch up with the developed, or there was a model. This was a very linear model. That's why develop, this kind of underdeveloped things came up. So again, it has haunted us. The question is that if liberal institution and liberalism is Western construct, therefore, new resurgent traditional conservative forces in our countries are saying that the liberal institution and idea of liberalism, apart from the American British type of liberalism, our own version of liberalism is emancipatory in many ways. If they challenge that as the Western values, development is also Western. So how do we see development from the indigenous perspective? Means native perspective. So development, democracy discourse to me is a very misleading way of putting that, but nonetheless, all of us are fascinated with the development. So to me, development and the idea of a liberal institution, I think we are all in the crisis of modernity, basically, modern institutions. So in that sense, I would like to reflect this dichotomy, because in India, people talk about a lot about development. In Pakistan, also a lot of development. There's a kind of aspirational value of a development. But development, I should not be putting before, but certainly development is also hijacked by a small group of people, like democracy has been hijacked by a small group of elite people. So how do we see this dichotomy? Where development is leading to us? Is it ensuring the freedom and the spirit, collectiveness that we have, or it segregates us? So that's the question. So anybody begin and then.
I have a suggestion, because we don't have enough time. Let's not open up to the floor. It will be enough just to hear all of you speak, so that there's more of a discussion among you.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I think in India the question of corporate-led development is not integrated enough, and I think the political corporate nexus is so strong that people are not able to question any but corporate-led development. And I think that again is dangerous, because all the earlier socialist models, I mean, Nehru is the biggest, curse right now. I mean, he's the villain of everything. So you're just dumping a lot of very sound policies and institutions because of a political kind of agenda. And in place of that is coming this very strong corporate, model, which is completely anti-people, and the laws, I mean, because the legislature is now in the hands of one party, the laws, whether it's forest land acquisition, anything to do with displacement, anything to do with basic livelihoods. Labor laws have been, again, amended in extremely basic ways. And again, one is so kind of, firefighting at all levels that the kind of introgration amendment of labor laws would have had 20 years ago is not happening anymore. So I think this whole myth of development through corporations is, one is not having a chance to fight against it, because people's movements are also being crushed. And activists and leaders, anyone who speaks against, are in jail. I mean, no two things about it. I mean, people, we all know, friends of ours, or many people in this room, have been in jail now for the past 2 years with no bail. So, I mean, this is the kind of situation. So when one is talking about dissent, frankly, I mean, the kind of dissent that one is seeing, there's a very large, high level of self-censorship, including from all of us. We're very careful about what we say in public because the price is too high, and somehow the art field is one where still the speak out is happening. I mean, they're fantastic stand-up comics. I mean, there's this guy called Kunal Kanga. He's called Chakatya Kunal. He is one of the strongest critiques actually of corporatization. You know, if you just see his stuff, which anyone who speaks out in public is shut up. You know.
So,
So, so I have a slightly different take, and I'll try to explain because in Pakistan context. So we've had in '99 we had a military takeover, which lasted I think 8 years, 9 years, and then we have had since then we've had like three. This is the third democratic election. I mean, okay, so and I'm going to use the word democratic election very loosely because, as we all know, but still, I mean, I think it's still much better than having a military dictator on your head. So, in those three, in the when we had our first election in 2008, after like, a gap of 11 years. We had a very interesting thing happened that our powers were devolved. Like the center gave away its power first time. So what happened was that the provinces got many more powers than they ever had, and a lot of interesting things, and as in provinces took on pro-poor policies and legislation as whenever. I mean, it obviously takes time to implement, but that is what was happening. So I mean, so I think in that sense, in Pakistan, probably democracy and development probably went hand in hand. But since then, we've had the military started quietly and let the political institutions, be. So we've had a lot of erosion, and now where we stand is that we have even worse than a guided democracy. I think it's a basic, like it's not a military government, but it is a government which is led by the military in many ways. And we've also had like in over the years our judiciary is not. We had a compromised judiciary. Yes.
Yes.
So it's like interesting times, but difficult times. I want to. So the thing with because we are at a film festival, and I feel that and we are in South Asia. So
That's what Pakka.
so I want to ask the panel, and I would disagree with panel. Maybe we have interesting inputs from the audience. Is how do we bring together this wonderful talent that we have in South Asia, and we have the means. And so how do we bring together something which we can? I mean, what you're doing is one way. Maybe more of that, like our art, our talent, our work. We can transcend. We do transcend boundaries, very like in a minuscule way. But how do we do that more in a more concerted way that we are sort of is pro-democracy, pro-people kind of work that we do. And I'd just like to also mention that in Pakistan what's happened is that we actually used to make a lot of feature films. And over the years, it's just so sad that we've only now like four, like now it's becoming better, but because but in the last 10 years, in 1 year we just had like 4 films in the cinema, but it's getting better, but it's a very sort of dismal situation. So I mean, I've kind of just changed your question a little bit because
no, you haven't changed.
and also the fear. I think we all do live. And especially we have a lot of Jawad will sort of agree with me that we have a lot of self-censorship. And it's interesting that I'm coming from another meeting which is actually on freedom of expression. You were there yesterday, and where we spoke about how much we curtail ourselves from speaking the truth, because and I would also like to quote Sabine, the late Sabine, whose story you must have seen. She said, she was killed because she had an event at her T2F, which had Baloch dissidents talking about what's happening to them. And then the same night she was killed. And she said that fear is a line in your head, and it's up to you where you stand.
Tikaji. Civil answered my question because she brought in the question of a commercial movie, which is I think I was entering into that field after this development. What about the market? Lakshmi talked about the market. So market, we thought the new mantra of 90s was the market is the most liberating forces, more egalitarian forces, which allows you to have a choice, but suddenly market is constraining civil space. So market is being used to limit our choices and things. So I was about to come back, so I was not, you bring in that point, but Tikaji, please proceed on development, democracy, freedom questions. Thank you. big deal.
Of course, it's getting more and more interesting, actually. And as Harizi mentioned the 1990s thing, I consider myself the 1990 generation, the generation that saw democracy with a romanticized idea. And I remember in 1990 democracy fight, when I was still preparing to join my first college, just having completed my school education, 10th grade. We were asked to put a black flag in the middle of the city of Damak, and then we, the young guys, decided that the most expressive planting of the black flag would be in front of the police station, and we did that in the middle of the night. So this very idea, and the democracy then. The advent of democracy happened. We had the 1990 constitution, and then the free market economy, and then how the market started coming into our lives. Very interesting. And today, after a brief interception of democracy in the middle, we see the market forces become stronger. At the same time, we see that the ideals of democracy being also at times compromised. Although our 2015 constitution has certain issues in it. Say we have 33% women participation guaranteed in political representation. That becomes 40% when we go to the local level. It's all a rosy and bright picture. But in terms of the capacity of the democratic institutions to deliver development, or all-round progress of the people, there is so much to do. It is just at the rubrics, it's just at the start. And I think in Nepal, our struggle, our focus, or particularly the focus of the people who pretend to be doing something for the society, need to focus on the critical evaluative role of the government and these democratic institutions. We are comparatively listening to the other colleagues, we see we are comparatively at better times, comparatively, only comparatively. And I think the role, the critical evaluative role that we can play to consolidate our democratic institutions, I think will be able to deliver the kind of all-round inclusive development of our democratic institutions would be very, very important. And I rest my case here on this. Thank you.
Okay. I don't know. I listened to everybody and so many things came to my mind. I don't think that I can actually. There are two things I want to say. One is about development. I think in Bangladesh, development, I think I'm treading into a little bit dangerous territory here, because development has another meaning in Bangladeshi culture. It is called that there are people called development agencies who are also very active. They also play some agenda.
So in Bangladesh, it's Unnayan, no?
Development agency means international development organization. Yeah, yeah, Lakshmi. So these are also they have their own agenda, and also they also play somewhat, I don't know if I was saying it correctly or not, but in political development they have some agenda and they actually sort of dictate. So in that sense, I am completely in what Hari said, that what we should actually, what we are doing, like I said that because of the international agency, what they do want to do is put Western idea of development, Western concept of development to us, and that's why actually the government and everybody also tries to, and they get support from international agencies, and actually so that also what you call empowers them to do whatever they want to do. So these are the things what we are facing in Bangladesh, but I would rather go into what Aisha had said, that we should actually, since this is a film festival and I am a filmmaker, and we should actually talk about films and more like that. And I have seen in Bangladesh all these activists, actually all the political movement that have started, and cultural activists have played a major part in all of them, especially films and theater and music. There have been street movements where there have been street theaters, there have been street musics. They like sang, dance all night, and actually, and this is in a way very interesting is that religion in Bangladesh, it is Islamic country, not actually like a Muslim majority what we call it. We don't want to say it is Islamic country. So that in Muslim majority, as Jawad has said yesterday, that we don't do film, that in India we have seen that actually we are not supposed to sing and dance, but actually they have what you call, they played a part in sort of freedom of expression, that we want to say what we want to say through music, and we also want to say something which is cultural. Another thing is very important, which actually I also Jawad has mentioned, that in Bangladesh there is censorship, not self-censorship. There is a censor board actually. All films have to go through, and unlike India, we don't have a rating system. Either it gets censored or it doesn't. So yeah, so that is also something I think as a what we can people as artists, we have to talk about and actually do something about it, so that freedom and liberty has to say means what you want to say, you can say without being censored or.
I think when I set up the conversation, my idea was to, as Sitaji and the motto of this film festival, where mind is free, is a very abstract and spiritual something. So I was trying to bring that into how does these abstract ideas play through the institutional processes. That's why I brought modern institutions like democracy, state, and market. And how do we see ourselves in the crumbling of established institutions that we create to protect minority, protect diversity, pluralism, the homogenizing effects of the modern institutions. So where do we as a creative artist, because politics has become too dangerous to leave to the politicians themselves. So we as a citizen, we as a collective formation of artists or free thinkers or creative people, how do we wrestle back our space of creativity in decline of these institutions which are supposed to protect us? For example, but we cannot go into the popularly kangaroo type of institutions to impart the justice. So how do we wrestle back the institutions that we need to keep the spirit of liberty and freedom in South Asia? That's a big challenge, because what I see of late is that when edifice of the big institutions fall, it's a shock and awe for many of us. Recent Supreme Court judgment in India was never imagined if the political elections or political power that preceded. Second elections of the Modi, Kashmir, it's all tied up. We never imagined. Similarly, how do we take back the rightful places? In the beginning we said that the creativity thrives in censorship. So in the decline or the fall of these institutions, Lakshmi is not going to speak for all of us, but what she feels, where is the possibility of individuals and collectives? Each will dwell on that. So that would keep the spirit and the liberty of South Asia alive. When I saw the movie The Indus Blue, the creativity, very interestingly put, religion was questioned there, place in local was question there when the lady sings with the Jaisalmer, she can't cross the border, but in her imagination the boundary is still there. Dying arts. When I saw the movie, it was very sad in a way that those craft will die in anyway because the market will not take up. But it has stirred our mind. So in that way, where do you see the possibility of someone who has been dedicated to arts and culture, journalism for so many years, similarly all of us have given our life to some extent, whatever possible we have done. So what is the possibility of rejuvenating or rekindling our efforts? In that positive note, we will end.
Okay.
Otherwise, very depressing.
No, that's true. I mean, here actually we feel we can breathe, so I'm really in the last 2 days feeling, you know, one's mind is free out here. But just to say that I think it is happening in pockets in India. It's not that, you know, there's all gloom and doom. I think the question is, how does one, you know, get into the flow of what's going on as resistance? And resistance is taking many forms, and I think where the clampdown is coming, you can be sure that there is resistance. So the fact that, you know, higher education, universities is a space now, there's a serious clampdown from authorities, but that's also a space where, for example, you may not have a overtly political discussion, but you might have a beef eating